This is the Wise Guy Radio Show, a podcast dedicated to educating and inspiring through conversations with today's top talents in the world of glass. We will be dissecting their journeys in hopes to deliver actionable content that you, the artist, can start implementing now, helping you grow not only as a creative spirit, but also a successful artistic entrepreneur. With a little organization, relationship building, and your artistic ability, you can obtain greatness. Climb aboard, whether an artist, retail owner, or enthusiast. We have a ton of fun in store for you. Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show.
You're listening to the Wise Guy Radio Show.
This episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show is brought to you by Mountain Glass Arts. For the month of March 2019, Mountain Glass is offering their Boro sale. You can get Pyrex rod and tube at 45% off. No promo code needed, but this sale is not combined with any other discounts and does not include 7 to 9 millimeter color rod. And for all you beautiful soft glass nerds, they have their Effetre sale, 35% off Effetre. That's E-F-F-E-T-R-E, which is the promo code. So again, just put in promo code Effetre, E-F-F-E-T-R-E at checkout. And this sale does not apply to sample packs and is not combined with any other discounts. And for any other questions, comments, or concerns for weekly sales, kiln sales, and all the other fun stuff going down at Mountain Glass, go to mountainglass.com. That's mountainglass.com. Hey, what's happening? Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show, episode 211. This is your host, Jason Michael. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today is a special episode. We got Wyoming MoFo on here. Those that follow him on Instagram know his recent story he's been posting on his feed, and it's one of the main reasons I want to bring him on here, besides the fact that I've been a huge fan of his work over well over a decade now, and his style and his uniqueness to his work. And me having this podcast gives me a chance to reach out to my favorite artists and chit-chat and then share those stories with you, which is what we are doing today. So it was a lot of fun getting to talk to him and just kind of bullshitting about life and glass and his beginnings. And then we got into the meat and potatoes of the real conversation, which is about the mental depression and struggles he's been going through over the last 6 months or so, if not longer. And just, without giving away the episode, just, the importance of staying true to your head and understanding what you're going through and paying attention to it, even if it's good. What's the root of what you're going through. And it could be your diet, it could be exercise, it could be lack of both, it could be overwork, it could be just focusing on the wrong things, it could be too much drug use. I mean, all kind of stuff. There's possibilities. Could be a chemical imbalance. We all deal with some kind of something. And those that have been listening to the show for a long time understand that I as well have gone through my own struggles. And it's another reason I wanted to get this show going, was to talk about this stuff, because it's just so important. If this show helps just one person, this episode, that's my goal, and I definitely hope it. And as you can tell, my voice is shot. The last couple of weeks, I've been noticing around 7-ish at night, my voice starts getting very tired. I don't know what it is. I'm hoping it's not something to do with my allergies, or I'm getting sick, or my throat's all fucked up. I don't really know. But I do talk a lot during the day with talking with guests, and today I had a class. I'd have a pipe making 101 course I'm doing. It's a 6-week class, and I have a student who's been coming over on Sundays, and we just did week 3 today, which was blowing bubbles, popping holes, and pushing bowls, working on 12 mil, and it was so fun because he told me today that now that he's at this point in the class, he now truly understands that this shit is not easy to do, and gave him a whole nother appreciation for trying to blow out an even ball of glass. It's not easy. Even though those of us that have been doing this for a long time make it look easy, we all know that hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and repetition of all the fuck-ups we've done to get to the point to make a nice, even round bubble. So, that being said, I did a lot of talking today and just wrapped up my interview with Mr. Wyoming over here. And again, you guys can find him out there on Instagram at Wyoming MoFo, all one word. I'll have his link in the show notes and whatever is going on there. And last episode, I misspoke. I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but I was saying the gas conference was that week, and the gas conference is actually coming up this week, towards the end of the week here, the 28th, 29th, and 30th of March. And super excited to have this in my hometown. I'll be out there on Thursday. I have time with my kids early in the evening, And then I'm going to be meeting up with some of the artists that I've had on the show afterwards in the evening. I thought at first I had to work, and I was scheduled to work, but the schedule got moved around, so now I got my Thursday off again. So I will definitely be out there. I won't be going to the actual demonstrations, but I will be mingling and rubbing elbows with some artists out there that, again, I've had on the show. We've been chit-chatting, excuse me, off the air about meeting up and getting together. So, oh my goodness, excuse me, I'm gassy here right now. Let's see what else is going on. We had trade show seasons over with. I hope you all that did the trade shows had some good luck with some sales and stuff. I know part of this conversation that we get into is really the financial struggle that's going on out there in the industry amongst some of the best artists in our industry. And that financial struggle then doesn't allow the artists to truly create the work that they want to create. They have to create out of necessity, which is something that we have to do. It's like you can go get a part-time job or you can make production pipes. And even if it's one-off production pipes, but you got to think about what you're pricing things for, making lower-end work, etc. So a big part of this conversation we'll get into is about the ebbs and flows of our industry and the struggles that a lot of us have gone through and the struggles that a lot of artists are going through right now. So just know if you are financially struggling right now in the industry and the way sales are, it's important just to make sure that you are putting a little bit aside if you can for the times of the year when it is slow, and really the times and seasons of trends and the economy. They could go in waves of every 5 years. 5 years ago, the influx in the pipe industry, people were making thousands and thousands of dollars. I mean, some people were making an annual salary on just one piece. So it's just important to remember that if you do have a windfall that's a good one for yourself, to take a chunk of that money and put that shit away, because when the going gets good, it's good, but when the going is not going good, it is not going good. And our industry is completely saturated. The changes in the laws are happening. A lot of just weird things that are going on out there, and it's just important that you're prepared for when the times are tough. Dave Ramsey refers to it as a squirrel fund. Squirrels put their nuts away in the wintertime. It comes around, they've got nuts in the wintertime because through the whole summer and spring, they've been putting them away. So it's just something important to think. And if you do keep track of your books, you can create a chart and reference to previous year's sales and give yourself kind of an idea of what should be expecting for that month or potentially that week, even though it doesn't really work that way. A lot of times it's better to do quarters, but even monthly, you can go back and say, hey, well, how are my sales back in January of 2016, 17, 18, here it is 19. Are they going down? They going up? That kind of stuff. So it's so important to keep track of your shit. So if you're not, keep track of your shit. And if you need to get an accountant, because an accountant is very affordable and will save you thousands upon thousands of dollars and help you keep track of your shit. So that being said, I'm going to stop rambling here. Make sure you go give our sponsors some love. I got my new episode, I keep calling it that, my new issue of the Flow magazine in today. It is the spring issue. It's got an amazing marble on the front of it. It's fantastic. I have another, I think today this is the 5th part in the series I did on So You Want to Be a Glassblower in the editorials section there. Great tutorials. And again, if you ever are interested in having your work published, hit up the Flow magazine. They're a great publication to have your work put in. Obviously, you have to make sure it's good quality, your pictures are good, but if you ever want to get published, the Flow is a great place to start, and it gives you credibility in terms of a community of artists. And then also go check out Mountain Glass for all their sales they have going on, and make sure you are going to their website and you register for their register an account, because that way you can get their emails for their monthly updates and also their weekly sales. If you can also follow them on Instagram at Mountain Glass. You can also make sure you follow me at wiseguy_media on Instagram. And then you can follow my personal page at jmichaelglass, JMichaelGlass. And I'll have all that links and all that fun stuff in the show notes. And a big shout out to our Patreon wise asses out there. If you'd like to help support the show for as little as $1 a month, you can go on to patreon.com/wiseguy.radio. And again, every little penny really does help this show, because it does cost me every monthly a pretty hefty little fee to produce this podcast, as well as the time and everything else putting into it. And those that are on Patreon that earn our $10 a month level have exclusive access to video content that is only for Patreon members. Even though I have YouTube coming up soon, the YouTube videos that I will be putting up there they'll be different basically. But the content for the Patreon, again, is just exclusively for the Patreon followers. So again, if you have any questions about that, hit me up. And right now, if you can't afford to financially help support the show, you can always go on to your favorite podcast app that you're using and leave this show a rating and review, please. It helps the show tremendously. It shows iTunes that the show is being listened to and helps put us up in the rankings, which then again exposes this show to a larger, broad mass of people and exposes our industry and our community of these amazing, talented artists that we have to the masses out there in the world. So there you go. You guys take care of yourself. It's starting to get warm in some areas, so make sure the areas that are warmer than others, y'all are staying hydrated and getting ready for this blazing hot summer we're going to have here soon. And if you're in the cold, enjoy it while you got it, because summer is right around the corner. All right, I'm out of here. Love you all. Take it easy. Enjoy this episode 211 with Wyoming MoFo. We'll talk to y'all soon. Peace. What's going on, Wyoming? Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, man. So just to kind of give everybody a heads up, my voice is shot. I don't know why. I just taught a class like an hour ago or so it might be part of the reasoning. But I apologize for my my crackly voice today. But that being said, dude, I'm so stoked to have you on here. For one, I've been a fan of your work for well over a decade. I think your style that you have is very unique, and it's something that you've been able to continue to do and kind of translate into different times of the periods of our generation of glass blowers and pipe makers, but also kind of evolve with the times of the industry and everything that's going on. It's been fun to kind of see this kind of consistency in your work, which I think for someone and as an artist to have a name, it's important to have that kind of consistency in a piece. Whether it's like Mike Luna and his Dragons, or you name it. That people have these things that we all do. And I'm appreciative of that, and for you to have that influence in my work as well, which has been part of it. And so, that being said, I'm just stoked to have you on the show, dude.
Awesome, thanks, man. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, dude. So this should be a fun episode. We're going to talk about your history and your background, the glass, and what have you, and then we're also going to get into some topics that have been recent in your life that, following those that follow you on Instagram, have been seeing your very transparency, in a sense, on your posts. Talking about some things you've been going through. And it's so important for us all to have these conversations about our well-being and mental well-being, because if our mental health isn't good, nothing else in our life is good. And especially as artists, it's so important to talk about this shit. So I definitely appreciate you coming on here and being transparent about it too.
Oh, no problem. Everyone goes through shit, so.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth? So before I get side-railed, dude, if you want to get us started here by sharing your superhero origin story and how you were introduced to the flame.
Cool. Yeah. Started, I think the end of 95. I was living in just outside Fort Collins at the time, and had I don't know if I'd call him a friend anymore, but at the time he was a friend, and he had learned how to blow glass, and he was, like 3 months before he started teaching me, I kind of conned him into, giving me a job, because I knew he was making money, and he was one of those people. He would put me to work and pay me not what I was worth. So I don't know if he really taught me as he gave me the opportunity to be on a torch. And so I worked for him kind of for about 2 years, and he brought other people in, so there was I think there was 5 of us by the end of it, and we all just kind of taught each other, since there was no YouTube or internet or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
And then I moved back to Wyoming. Like 98, I guess. I was into music and had a bunch of friends, so we had a band. Kind of moved back to Wyoming for that. Blew glass for a little bit, off and on, and then for like a year, and then started to blow like full time again, probably 99. Completely self-taught. Didn't was just doing like surface layer rake stuff, fume stuff. I, didn't wasn't around anybody to learn from peers, which really sucked.
Yeah, and those that were around didn't want to really show anything.
I was horrible, and it doesn't make sense to me nowadays because there was so much more opportunity. Like if you could make a crappy pipe, you could sell it.
Mm-hmm.
But people were so not wanting to tell you stuff at the same time, and it didn't make sense because they were still going to make as much money as they wanted to.
Yeah. Exactly.
Moved back to Wyoming. Just blue glass production for the next 13 years. Just bubblers, spoons, slides. I think I figured it out once that I made just over 30,000 pieces production-wise.
Amazing. Sounds familiar.
Yeah, and then the market started to decline because of imports and pipe dreams and everything. Just it was getting harder and harder to sell stuff, and I was about that same time off. I went through a horrible divorce and was trying to get out of making pipes completely, and I didn't have the internet. Didn't have a smartphone for anything, and I was looking for classes to take. And I would go down to Denver once a month to sell work, and all of a sudden glass was.
Oh, I lost you, dude.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so now you're saying something about glass something.
Oh, yeah. So Glasscraft started to have piper classes, and I was just looking for any class, sculpture classes in general that were near me, and I'm in the middle of Wyoming, so that's only Denver.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to a shop owner down there, Alan White from Smoke Signals, and he's like, and I'm like, I'm looking at taking these classes, and there's this guy named Salt that I've never heard of, and he's like, oh, you mean this guy? And he pulls out, a salt dry piece, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm on a waiting list for this guy. And I look at his pieces, and it was just like I'd never seen any work like that done before. So I'm like, hell, I'll take that class.
Yeah.
And this entire time I'm working on a Nortel with tweezers and no tools. That's about it. Maybe a graphite, something or other there. And I end up taking this class with Salt, and it completely changed my life. And I was just completely blown away by the amount of skills he has in general. And then he just gave me this nice canvas of frit over clear, to where I can work on something and blow it up and not have to worry about how much money was costing me.
Yeah.
And that just completely changed what I was doing. Because I really wanted to get out of pipes, because I wanted to do sculptural stuff, and I didn't understand how to do that and make it a pipe. And that just opened my eyes to all this stuff I was really into. Right after that class, I was making lots of skulls, like cow skulls and sheep skulls and dog skulls and backbone bubblers and stuff, and it was awesome.
Dude, so do you find early on your calling for glass was really more sculptural than functional?
Early on it just did production, so I just kind of it was a nice way to live my life how I wanted to. I didn't understand anything about sculptural stuff.
Right.
But as soon as I had some sort of skills, or learned techniques where I could do that, I was just that's what I wanted to do for sure.
Yeah, I'm very similar myself. 'Cause the guy I learned from was a sculptor at the Renaissance Festival, worked all clear and stuff. And then he introduced me to a pipe maker who was doing production stuff, and so I did the production shit for 13 years. But having seen this tease of this apprenticeship I did with the sculptural work, it was always something that I was drawn to, because I was really hoping he was going to take me under his wing for the sculpture stuff and not really worry about the pipe stuff at all. But again, when I was making spoons, it was kind of well, I can make a perfume bottle and maybe sell this, or I can make a pipe and know I can sell 100 of these things tomorrow,
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and be on the torch the whole time and not have to,
and not
be
stressing.
able to sell what you were making and not have to worry about doing it as a hobby.
Yeah, exactly. So is that after that salt class? I mean, obviously it's amazing though when you have this you have a background, so you have a skill set, and then you see something new, and you're like, holy shit! It just opens up a whole new world to explore. And is that when you started? You're saying so you started doing your skulls and stuff. Was it kind of the direction you're heading towards when you really found like the piece that kind of made your name in a sense with?
Well, I was just kind of like that was like the anglerfish was a fluke, kind of, because I literally just typed in weird fish on the internet because I was trying to make fish, some sort of fish pipe, but fish aren't a good shape for a pipe, like a water pipe.
Right.
Where an anglerfish it was great because it's like a tennis ball with teeth.
Yeah.
So that was just one thing where the very first thing that came up on the internet was an anglerfish, and I was like, that I could make that into a workable thing.
And you did.
Oh yeah. Except at first I was making like big bowls, like 18 millimeter bowls with them, and swings, which I still have 2 swings.
Yeah, what's a swing, huh?
Yeah. I don't know that unless they've been around for 9 years.
Yeah, so funny.
And then people just love those things. Like of all the stuff I made at the time, I could have backbone, skull stuff all over the place, and like those people would stop and be like, "Oh, those teeth," or "Oh, that's the fish from Finding Nemo," or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a nice accident for me.
Yeah, and it seems like those ones, that's how they happen. It's like if it speaks to you, it's speaking to you, and that ends up becoming like almost your voice in a sense, I guess.
Well, it allowed me to really work on one concept constantly and really refine it. Mm-hmm. And figure it out, like, because at first they just blow up on me constantly, and then the more I made them, the more I could be like, because the teeth are just what makes the fish, and it's also what makes them crack at the same time.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I don't know. So it was really, it was really nice to be able to just really work on one thing and make my own character out of that. Because at first I was just trying to make them more realistic and kind of how they were, and then they would just slowly, every 6 months, they would just change and then change more. It was really a pretty incredible journey to have that happen.
So I guess at that point in time, though, were you using a hand torch to really get things blended in smoothly, or was that down the road?
I think at first, like, I was working on a Nortel major minor. I didn't have a hand torch. I didn't have any of those things. So I think at first I was I finally got a GTT, and so I could kind of figure stuff out. And then I took a banjo class and a Yushin class, and they were all using those little, smithies and stuff. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that's a nice tool to change my life. And yeah, that's what really I could go in there and really clean up all the little kind of areas that I knew shit was going to crack with, or just fix those cracks that ended up happening.
Yeah, it's amazing, dude. That thing's a game changer. I was the same way. I took a Joe P class, and I was like, why didn't I have this fucking thing 10 years ago? It's been available for as long as we've blown glass for. So it's just so funny.
Oh yeah. Well, I had like a 3, and I had a national 3A, but that's not quite the same.
Yeah, I have exactly the same thing. Yeah.
Those things are horrible because they would the flame would it would just knock off all the time, and the knobs were so easy to. They were just a pain in the ass. In general.
Yeah, super inconvenient.
Yeah, not a good torch. The little jewelry torches were the way to go for sure. So yeah, just all those little tricks to figure out how to get stuff to not blow up. It's amazing what tools will do.
Yeah. So is that at the point though, like taking the classes, you start adding more tools to your repertoire, like to your tool bag in a sense, when you start seeing like the influence of other artists out there?
Oh yeah. Because I mean, I was in the middle of Wyoming. There's not a glass blower within 200 miles of me. So
Yeah.
and also I didn't have a computer or anything, and I didn't glasspipes.org. I didn't have, so I didn't understand anything that people were doing at all. So I'd take a class and be like, oh, they're using this tool, or they're using a butter knife to sculpt, or smithy torch with a hornet tip or whatever tip someone was using at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it just completely, every time I'd go to a class, I would end up buying a bunch of stuff if I could. I went from a pair of crappy tweezers to nice tweezers and a nice smith torch, and whatever tool I can get my hands on, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, it makes such a big difference too. Because like I know early on I was like all about being like caveman style and just blowing glass with gravity and my breath and my tools, a little bit of like you're saying, like a graphite paddle and a 4x4 square pad for my bench top and a bull push, and I was good to go.
Oh yeah, I was in such a dark ages. I didn't know how to pull points or flare foot or anything, so I would just chop up like 28 into thirds and just make like that.
Nice. I thought 1 inch and 9.5 was all that was available for me to use, and then I got the catalog and access to the internet, and I was like, oh my god, what have I been doing?
Yeah, I was at least lucky enough to where I'd go down to Denver like pretty much once a month and go to Glasscraft, and kind of, if I was lucky, I'd be able to go and look at all their stuff.
Yeah.
It's like I had to go. At least I was close enough. 300 miles away from Glasscraft, but that place changed my life. Like met a lot of glass blowers there, took a lot of classes there. It's a shame they closed down.
Yeah, I had heard that. I was actually out there a month ago now. I guess it's been. And D&L, I guess, is the new jam out there for supplies and stuff. But I'd heard about Glasscraft not being around no more.
Oh yeah, they were. They were the distributing company of where I was from, kind of the West, and they did have some classes and stuff. And you could go out in the parking lot and talk about pipes. You couldn't talk about pipes in there.
Oh, interesting. That's funny.
But then, managed, like, they got sold off, and then another guy started to manage the place, and he was a piper, so he started like getting all the pipers to come and teach classes there, which was a huge thing. From going from you couldn't even talk about a pipe in that store to now the best pipers in the world are teaching classes there. It was awesome.
Yeah, that is. It's cool to see that influence happen across the country, with all the other studios and the Cornings and, what have you out there. Who would have thought?
Yeah. It was such I think that was like the big explosion of sharing information and getting out there with a pipe name, to where you felt free enough to like kind of throw yourself out there, but of course you really couldn't.
Right.
But it really lit the fire of all sorts of stuff. And then like the Colorado projects were starting, and just this whole a community forged that, like that was just all of a sudden we were coming together in large groups to do stuff. It was really crazy. Yeah,
it's awesome to see it. I've been watching it from a distance myself here in Florida, but it's still been part of me being part of the community still, and communicating through with social media and whatever with everybody. So it's been cool to see, and then to see the different coasts now are growing in their own little group communities, and then you get like Glass Vegas or Glass Roots as a trade show together, and everybody's together in one place, and it's chaotic. It's awesome.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah. I didn't do a trade show until, I don't know, or 2010 probably.
Okay.
And I was so out of the loop of the pipe community, not having the internet. And so, like, I remember, going to Age and just being blown away by being surrounded by that many pipers that were friendly. So I went crazy for a couple years, just like, hey, you're awesome, glad to meet you. Making an ass out of myself, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, that's what it's all about.
Oh yeah, it was great. I mean, I made so many friends through trade shows of just being able to hang out with this community that I didn't have for 13 plus years. And then all of a sudden it exists, and they're allowing some guy from the middle of nowhere to just be in the midst of all this, with, at that time, pretty limited skills, really.
But you had a body of work, at least, that you're able to express yourself with. And I think it's hilarious, dude, being out in Wyoming and you're doing fish. People wouldn't expect an angler fish like what you're doing to come out of the middle of Wyoming.
Yeah, definitely not.
But it's cool, man. It just shows you what being an artist is all about. Who gives a fuck where you live,
Oh, yeah.
Make
Now in age, you have no excuse for anything. You don't have to be limited by where you live or what style you think you should be at or any of that stuff. We have every option you could possibly want nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. And that being said, so early on, before during the dark ages of the internet, in a sense, how'd you go about selling your work? Did you go to shops and hustle your shit? Did you have a wholesaler you sold to? Like, how'd you go about doing that?
Oh, I would, when I very first started out for myself, I'd go down to Denver every 3 weeks, like Colorado in general. So I'd go from Fort Collins down to Denver and hit every shop I could ever possibly find.
Nice.
I would hit a shop for years and they'd never buy my work. And then after 5 years, they'd be like, cool, I like your stuff.
Yeah, that funny.
and so I pretty much just sold my stuff in the Denver and surrounding areas for those 13 years.
Interesting, which makes it super exclusive too.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was 60 shops down there at some point, at the boom of that first kind of a glass pipe boom where everyone wanted a glass pipe and head shops were starting up and buying as much glass as they possibly could.
Yeah.
So, there was enough shops for me to go down there. Plus there was just less glass blowers in general. So it was a lot easier back then in certain ways if you could just go out and hustle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what it was all about. And then the day and age of that all changed with the internet and stuff. And before Pipe Dreams came up and the websites that were out there. I mean, I had one. We were all part of the shit out there and having access to UPS and sending stuff out, and it was just a whole another time. And then all of a sudden we went back to the dark ages and back underground. So, at that point in time with Pipe Dreams, like what did you do to survive?
Oh, just scrambled by. Still did the same stuff, there was, I don't know, I guess the first 4 months after that were pretty dim. I'd go down there and sell $800 worth of pipes or something and just talk to all the shop owners, and they were all scared shitless. And then just kind of, it just kind of slowly got better. People got more confidence that they couldn't bust everybody. I mean, in the end, there was more of us than there were people to bust us, so they couldn't do it.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, just push my way through it. I think, and then that same point in time, the import stuff really, I think that was the almost harder to deal with, because all of a sudden everyone's like, well, I can get a spoon for $2. Why am I going to buy your $10 spoon? Mm-hmm. So Pipe Dreams is easier for me to deal with than the next, I don't know, what year was that?
Yeah, I was trying to think here. 2008, maybe. I don't know why I'm forgetting it. Maybe it was later.
It was late.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now, actually.
Yeah, I don't. But yeah, that like, I guess at the same point that happened, imports happened, and that was just, that combination was a killer.
It's 2003.
Yeah. So like the next 4 or 5 years was like a huge decline in the pipe business, kind of like what's happening nowadays.
Yeah. You know, isn't it fucked up though too? Like how like the American pipe maker gets kind of, you know, scared in a sense. So we go back underground, but then like from underground, all the import shit rises. You know, and then it becomes like completely an influx through the entire country and all these little shops. And like you're saying, the attitude got to a point to where business became business. They weren't really caring about necessarily supporting the artist. They were like, I'm risking myself right now. I have to make the most profit out of whatever it is I'm selling. And I get that. Don't get me wrong. But it's been amazing over the last decade now to see how that attitude really changed to the, you know, and I know a lot of these shops at the time were also, they got into selling the spice and stuff, so they were making a shit ton of fucking money. But then that afforded them to then buy the showcase piece or the whatever, spend the money on the artist, and then the appreciation for the artist started to grow again because they had money to buy glass with. You know, it's kind of a weird cycle and things and what it took to get to the point between social media and this new influx of a new quote-unquote smokable drug that these places were making hand over fist and fucking money, man. It was crazy seeing it.
Yeah, it's really weird how they, you know, since they had the extra money and they liked pipes and they bought them, they never thought they were going to sell them at the time.
Yeah.
You know, but without having them in the stores, we couldn't build upon that. So as soon as like, you see, as soon as 2 stores started doing it, then more stores started doing it, and then it just kind of spread like wildfire after that, to where they finally started to sell high end pieces.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's all just related to spice.
Yeah, which is crazy, dude. And like when I was in Denver, I got to go to Illusions and see like the pieces, you know, in that place, which is incredible. Seeing, you know, that walking in that place, it's kind of surreal. But
yeah.
You know, and that was kind of that same kind of time frame of like the super high end collaborations and shit. You know, $30,000-$40,000 pieces. We're all like, what the fuck is going on out there? This is amazing. You know, which then Degenerate Art came out and then spawned a whole new generation of glassblowers and pipe makers out there. Which then,
yeah.
You know,
I mean, you know, you get some, you know, 18-year-old kid who walks into Illusions and like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Because that place is, you know, it's mind-blowing. Even to this day, you know, whenever I'm in the neighborhood, I always stop by there just to look at stuff, you know.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, that place in general really changed how head shops versus a gallery were. Because before that, there were just head shops. And a head shop, you know, you might find some nice pieces in there, but you're also going to find a sword and a dildo and handcuffs, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and then that place came along, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, you know, we don't have any of that stuff. We just have nice cabinets with really nice glass in it. And so you could like take your mom in there and she wouldn't be horrified.
Yeah.
And you could blow her mind, be like, oh no, look at that. That's a pipe. You know?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's funny to say too about the realization of the difficulty of what it is that we do. And I have a student right now. He's on week 3, and he's doing like a very basic intro into pipe making class. And today was about blowing bubbles at a 12 mil and trying to pop a hole and push a bowl. And he was able. Like the warm up today was gathering some 18 mil rod just to warm him up and get him used to the gather again from the previous lesson. And then he started to blow the glass on the 12 mil today, and he's like, man, in his head, he was thinking it was going to be an easy thing, and then he gets into it physically and realizes that this shit is not easy. And the fact that you have to make it over and over and over and over, because he was like, is this good? And I'm like, you tell me, and then pinch it off and throw it in the bucket and make another one, you know, type of thing. And, you know, and it was fun to see him come to this realization, like, wow, this actually does take a lot of fucking repetition and practice, and it's not for everybody. But he loves it, dude. So it's like I'm having a blast with this kid.
Yeah, I have a funny story where one of my friends is watching me blow, stems, like 9.5 stems back in the day, and he's like, "That's easy. I can do that." And I was just like, "Oh yeah, you can, sure." you sure can. And then like, all right, so sit down here and make one. And, like, showed him exactly what to do. And within 2 minutes, he was just like, oh, sorry, man. I didn't realize that this is a lot harder than what you make it look.
Yeah, exactly. I tell my friends that say that shit, or even people at Disney when I'm working doing demos, they're like, oh, that looks pretty easy. Or you make it look easy. Or I've heard people say, oh, I could do that. And I'm like, well, once you turn my torch on, then you can go from there. It's getting past turning the torch on first. And half the people couldn't even figure that part out. Yeah.
Yeah. The other part's like, yeah, all right, go make that, 2,000 times.
Yeah.
You'll make it look easy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I always practice and preach on this show, I should say, about pulling points and the importance of pulling points. Just so much that you learn just doing that fucking thing over and over and over and over and over again.
Oh, it's the most fundamental thing you could ever learn, because it helps you figure out how to pull down wall thickness of stuff. Like if you're going to pull down solid rod, it helps with that. It just helps with just this control of keeping stuff straight, and, how to control your flame. It's the I wish I would have learned that when I started out blowing glass.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of like 13 years into it.
Yeah, definitely. I was fortunate to have that like day one, like working for this guy. He's like, this is how you do it. I need 100 of this length. And then it went from that to wrapping them and then decorating them, and then I would hand it to him, and then he allowed me every fifth point that I decorated, I could make a turn and start making pipes out of them, and then learning the spoon process. But man, yeah,
that would have been so huge for me.
Yeah, it was game changer for me too. I'm just glad I had that foundation for it.
Like that, and I think flaring foots. How to flare a foot. Those are the two things that'll help you be such a better glass blower if you can just do that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, because then you can take the foot and make an ugly fucking cup, and it still stands up straight.
Oh yeah. You can do all this. If you can make a foot, you can do all this other stuff. I mean, that's like making my fish. Like, so I was making like bowls and stuff, and they wouldn't really sell because no one wants this huge bowl on their little tiny Toro that they had at the time.
Oh yeah.
And so I was on YouTube and I learned how to make a foot. And as soon as I made a foot, I could make that into a rig. And it was like that was a huge game changer for me, because all of a sudden I could make this thing and stick it on something that sat. Versus, you can't really put an angler fish on its belly.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. I didn't even think about that. And then also it helps you to keep the integrity of that character too, because you're keeping it round like it actually is in nature.
Yeah, just all sorts of stuff that like I couldn't figure out until I learned how to flare a base.
Yeah, it's interesting. I never even thought about that with your work, seeing that, but it makes total sense now, man.
Oh, it was the biggest thing, and I mean, to this day, I love flaring feet. It's my favorite thing to do. If I could do that all day long, I think I would. Nice.
You think, though, I'm sure after a couple thousand.
Yeah. Yeah, they're man, I love making those things.
Well, I do demos for the Great American Teach-In every year. I didn't do it this year, but previous years before this year, I was doing it, and I do it for every single grade level. So I have to dumb down the kind of the narrative of what I'm telling the kids to for their attention spans. But that's the demo I do, is flaring a foot. And I get the frit, and so it's got some color to it, so they can really see it. But it blows their mind every fucking time they see this ball of glass, and getting popped and then flared out into this flat thing. They're like, oh my god, it's such a fun process to do.
Yeah, it's like magic, I mean, and like especially if you do it without a tool, like it's magic.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Yeah, that's the hand skills, man. That's why I was also on here. I preach a lot about taking hot shop classes, because doing hot shop classes teaches you hand skills, and all those little hand skills lead back into making cup feet, because all that centrifugal force and balance and speed and the proper heat and all that shit, you can really get good hand skills when you're dealing with a heavy pipe, on a punny or whatever.
Yeah, I've I live in an area where that's just not a thing I can go check out.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, even in Denver, I can't. I know there was a couple hot shops down there, but nothing like where people went to. Nothing. Yeah, I didn't know about him, and no one I knew was going there really. So there's no reason for me to go there.
Yeah, makes sense.
But it sounds fun. That's for sure. Like that whole, and just soft glass in general. I would love to be able to work with something that you can work with for a couple minutes.
Yeah, it's definitely strange.
Yeah, it makes me kind of jealous. Like, oh, you can pull out a horn for that long? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, man. Like we had this guy come. It was our first time having an outside artist come in and do a showcase with us over at Magic Kingdom at Disney, and do that in Murano. And he did like a warm up demo doing the horses on a single gather, and it was just amazing just watching. And I just stood at the bench from behind him and just watched him pull this horse out from a glob of glass. And it's just amazing the timing and the process and the refinement that he had. But you can also tell he had done that a fucking 1,000 times. There was no way he just pulled that out of his ass.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what every soft glass blower has to make 1,000 times, right?
I think so. Yeah. I haven't done one yet, but I definitely want to try it after seeing him do it. It's amazing. So amazing.
Yeah. How do you get in the hot shop?
I was for about a year and a half, 4 days a week, doing like 10-hour days in there, and now I'm there twice a month doing it. So I get my fix, and I can go back on the torch.
Yeah, that's got to be a nice little break.
Yeah, it is, man. I just make ornaments, nothing special. I'll probably start doing pumpkins as we get closer to fall, but nothing too crazy. I've done some bowls and vases and some other things in there, but really right now I'm still just on the process of just learning the cut, like because every color is different in the furnace stuff. It's so different than hot shop or than boro. So you got to really know the alchemy of how things are reactive, and some colors are phobic to each other, which is similar in boro, but it's really important in the furnace world. So it's neat learning all this stuff.
Yeah, I'm envious of that for sure.
Yeah, if you get a chance, man, definitely, even if it's like a tandem glass blowing thing, make a pumpkin with another artist, type of shit.
Oh yeah. If I definitely ever get a chance, I'll do it.
Hell yeah.
I'm not afraid of new things in glass.
Yeah, it's important. I think that's why we've all done this for so long too, because we can expand our minds constantly, learning new shit.
Oh, we're so lucky that you're just limited by your imagination.
Yeah, good way to put it.
Like not too many other people who have jobs can say that. They're pretty limited what they can do.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just kind of browsing through your Instagram real quick. I'll just get an update on what you've been doing. And these fucking bikes you're doing, bro, are killer.
Thanks. They are. I mean, I think some of the best work I've ever made for sure. The weird thing about them is people don't know they're functional.
That's what I think is badass about them.
Yeah, I remember being at Age a couple years ago and just like showing them to people, and then like I'm like, oh, they're functional, and then the glass blowers or head shop owners or whatever, and they're like, really, they're functional? I'm like, of course they're functional. That's what I do, but they're a very interesting thing because people love them, but they're a hard sell for me.
Is it because of the lack of it looking functional?
Yeah, people don't. They'll look at it, whatever, and unless I actually physically show people how they work, they just automatically think they're not functional.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so our world, I don't think that people don't. They want functional work. And so they just audit because, you can't really see the down stem in them. The handlebars come off to put the joint in.
Yeah.
So it's I love making them. And right now I haven't been making them in over a year. Since I moved back to Wyoming, I need some I need a chop saw and stuff to be able to make them because there's a lot of cold work that goes on in those things.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's what makes them is the cold work. Because the first one I made, which is just the ugliest thing possible, was trying to make fenders and stuff, and like it just looked horrible. And then I got a lap wheel, and then I was flaring stuff and screwing around with stuff, and then I just realized how I could make a motorcycle look like a motorcycle, and then be able to hide little things about it and make it look like a motorcycle, because there's so many things you can do to take someone's eye away from them. Is like they don't have forks, but no one realizes that.
Right.
And it's all these little flat lapped pieces that I hide how the tires are connected to the body and all this stuff. Yeah.
They're fucking dope.
Thanks, man. I mean, whenever I post them, they get the most likes out of anything I've ever made, ever.
Which says something in terms of the that people are looking for and wanting. I mean, just like I didn't know how they function until I saw the purple one. Is that Purple Rain that you have, or Purple Lollipop, maybe?
Purple Rain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where you can see how you remove the handlebars, and that's where your joint's at.
Yeah.
So is it a natural perk, or is it?
It's a 2-hole. If you look at
the fuck me in the goat ass. So your bottom that bottom tire is actually okay. I see what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, if you look, you can see how it flows down and then goes back up through the body and the wheel, right?
Yeah.
But they're just so well hidden. I think I could probably sell more at Sturgis if they weren't functional. Then
completely.
But I got to get a chop saw and a Dremel, and I'm gonna try to start making those again, just because I really like making them, and people seem to really like them. So
yeah, I mean, I like the transparent or the translucent ones. But I really love the opaque ones that look like a real bike, like just the color, like the one with the butterscotch or whatever that color you're using on there is.
Butterscotch.
It's like black and something. I don't know. Maybe it's amber something. I don't know what it is actually.
Well, there's like a black and cadmium yellow one.
Okay, maybe it's the Oh yeah, that's like the bumblebee looking one.
Yeah, it's like two-tone.
Yeah, I think it's rad too.
Down the middle.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, but I still make the wheels so you can kind of see it function through there, I think.
No, this one's completely opaque.
Okay.
On that back wheel.
Yeah. I really like making them. They're fun to make. But they also they take a lot of time.
I can imagine, yeah.
And then lots of times I got to make duplicates of stuff because the tolerances are so small that if I don't make the right fender, I got to make that fender again.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
But man, but it's a great practice piece. Just learning some. I mean, it's almost like scientific, tricky welds that you're doing on these things.
Oh yeah, that's where back to the hand torch of I started going back to those jeweler tips.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can use a really, really tiny one to get all those tiny welds. Because if I use a blast shield or whatever, it's just going to be way too hot and it's going to melt everything around it. Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
you can get those really tiny, but they're still going to be 10 times hotter than I think I'm using a 4 or something, maybe a 5 on those.
Okay.
So I can really get it in there, not wash everything out of there.
Yeah, man. It's they're pretty sick.
Thanks.
I've always been intrigued by the bikes. I remember when Banjo did his back in the day. It was just everybody was like, "Oh my god, this is fucking amazing." And then I started seeing some real simple ones. My buddy Scott was doing them for a bit, so I was kind of copying his, and they were just dry pieces. And I didn't do any fenders or anything like that, but they were still fun to make. But I can tell you had fun making these.
Oh yeah, and get compliments. I remember Banjo loved them. And that was huge for me.
Yeah, I can imagine. Hell yeah, yeah. And then you like go crazy with this one that's like oh, I see. It's a post of your first and second one. Okay.
Oh yeah, right. Like the super ugly, weird,
Yeah, it's
weird one.
yeah, it's like Geiger inspired.
I don't know. It wasn't. It was my own weird mind. Just trying to figure out how to make one that, in my own way.
Uh-huh.
You know, not trying to make one like hops or banjo. You know, because those are cool, and I was just really trying to figure out how to make my own bike rather than like try to make a Harley inspired bike or you know, I was really trying to search out my own vision of what I would like a bike to be.
Yeah, which I can see that for sure.
Yeah, I still like how people think they're made off other types of bikes, where I mean, they look so much like a bike but they're not so distinct that you're like, oh, that's a Triumph or that's a, new Yamaha or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
always amazed how other people react to my stuff, and then they tell me like, oh, about like I ride motorcycles. Can you make this? I'm like, well, I kind of make my own motorcycles.
So do you find though like that process of learning how to create those bikes has taught you? I mean, I'm sure it's taught you a lot more about glass, but when you're getting into the cold working stuff, have you then started to implement that kind of technique back into the anglerfish, which was something that you've started off with years and years ago?
Not really, because I there's just not. It's kind of the right tool for the right thing, where cold work for those motorcycles is definitely the right tool to do that, because I can make all these identical things and place them where I want to and not have to worry about stuff. Where on the fish, it's just they're so much more organic that it's just a lot easier to just completely do by hand.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Makes a lot of sense.
But I got a lot of ideas of stuff I can do where I can cold work it. It's where I really need to get a Dremel, and kind of start working with those because I can do a lot more tiny detailed stuff with that I just can't do with when it's hot and with a knife or something, sculpting stuff, Just watching how many people are doing Dremel stuff now and how you can really use that application on all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, man, it's part of this thing, and I talk about a lot. Is part of what I love about this industry is all these little things and little side companies and side hustles and artists that have popped up out of nowhere that were inspired by our industry. And now having a canvas, in a sense that they can draw on, or even like the paintings that have been done for years. You have a glass blower demoing, and then you have a painter behind them. And everybody's being inspired, and this energy's flowing and shit. It's fucking rad. It's neat. Still going back to thinking 20 years ago, it's like I would have never visualized or had a vision of where things are now in the form of this art we're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, if you just look at it, like we are emerging artists. Like I can't say 20 years ago I really saw a pipe that I would consider art.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if you placed like the nicest pipe I can think of 10 years ago to the nicest pipe I can think of today, art-wise, it wouldn't really relate. You'd just be like, oh, that looks like a newbie, Yeah,
exactly.
And it's just our progression. Like we started out as pipers. We didn't really know anything about art and concepts of art. And then we've slowly, first we just tried to make how can I make a fish and make it a pipe? To where now I'm like, how can I make a motorcycle? Or, I guess back in the days, how do I make a pipe a fish? Versus nowadays where, how do I make a motorcycle a pipe? It's a big shift in how we think, how to make a piece of art, and then how do I make it into a pipe?
Yeah, it's fascinating, man, because I always teach, like, function over form first. Doesn't matter what the fucking thing looks like, and then once you can refine your work, then it becomes the opposite. But the function is still important, because I know I've heard a lot of qualms out there, people that will, have spent thousands of dollars on pieces, and they say the function sucks.
Yeah, to have a straw, spend
Or a straw.
$1,000.
Yeah, exactly. I made
Yeah.
plenty of those myself, but nobody's ever bought one.
Oh yeah, I mean, it has to function. If you're going to want decent money for a couple $100 for a pipe, it better function.
Yeah.
Because it's not there to be on your wall or be in your glass case. It's there to be used.
Yeah, exactly. So that being said, I was kind of want to ask this earlier in terms of money talk. Do you have like a certain philosophy behind how you price your work, or do you find like there's certain standards that are set by, say, like a customer or something like that?
I think, well, it's changed throughout the years. When I first did it, I had to figure out how much it cost me to make a pipe, how much I could, kind of break it down that way. And then the better and better I got, and the more, I guess, artsy or whatever I got, I started looking at my peers to see how to price stuff. Because I was making whatever similar stuff, and I would be, usually they would be asking more for their work than I would, and I would just try to bump up my work. And then at some point, I asked other people, and they kind of priced my stuff for me, because I would have underpriced my stuff in the market.
Yeah, it's easy to do.
Yeah, like I said, I'm alone in the middle of Wyoming. I don't get that kind of feedback. So yeah, that's kind of how I started to really figure out where I was in the market, was my peers and what they were getting for their work. And nowadays I kind of have a thing of how much I need to make in a week, but I'm in a whole different headset than I was.
So speaking of headset, for a little transition for us to kind of up to date in terms of what we were talking about, earlier on, is your recent posts on social media and your transparency that you've been having over the last few months. With things you've been going through personally, and we don't need to get into like the itty-gritty details of stuff, but I'm glad that you were brave enough, in a sense, to have something like that to put out there and not worry about what the fuck people are really thinking. I mean, maybe you were, I don't know, but it's still, I applaud you for that transparency.
Well, like, it was out of necessity, right? So I'm in the middle of Wyoming. Not that many people here. Like, I don't. My support group isn't really big here. Mm-hmm. Versus if I was still living in Denver or someplace. So I was, I pretty much live by myself, work by myself all day long. So I don't have that many people I was reaching out to, and I was just in a super bad place, and I needed support.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of posted, because I needed some feedback. I needed to know that people cared, I guess, because like probably a lot of people, I just had a horrible self-esteem most of my life and never thought people liked me or cared about me in general. It took me just till recently to understand that people really like my work. I never accepted that people bought my work because they enjoyed it. I just thought they bought it because whatever, some weird thing that they're okay buying junk or something.
Right.
Where, like, I think a lot of people have that. I know it's called imposter syndrome or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
And you're proficient at it, and you're pretty good at it, but you still will not accept that you're good at it. Mm-hmm. So, like, through this whole journey, I've finally accepted that people have a huge emotional response to my pieces personally when they're in their collections, where I just didn't understand that was happening, which is like really helped me lately, because I've just connected more with collectors and stuff, and understand that something I make, they get enjoyment out of.
Yeah, which is important.
Yeah, it's huge. Like what we do is so immensely personal. It's not like I'm doing something that someone else designed and made, and I'm just part of this cog. Everything I make, I design. It is 100% a part of me, and if someone doesn't buy it, that hurts me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, this whole in general, I just think so many of us, especially glass blowers, and what's happening in our industry right now, are in this realm of being depressed because of it. Like I've slowly, it's for the last couple years, it's harder and harder to sell pieces, and at the same time, like nice pieces I've ever made in my life.
Yeah. Such a weird. Yeah, the dichotomy of this industry is so weird right now. It makes sense because of how things have grown on the technology side with vape pens and that kind of shit. But at the same time, it's just like, I don't know. It's very strange.
Well, I meof our industry is this thing where it was this huge boom because rigs didn't really exist. So so all of a sudden everyone wanted a rig, and then shops opened up, and we filled everyone got rigs, and all the shops got stuff in their store, and so we kind of saturated the market. That's just kind of what happened because it didn't exist before. It wasn't like regular tubes or water pipes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It was just new, and so we filled up this huge gap. But it's not like we're growing in users, Yeah. Whether it's legal or not, the same people who were smoking before it was legal.
Yeah, exactly.
So now we filled up all the stores, and so they don't. There's no spaces left in their shelves, and stuff's just slowing down. And so I think just a lot of us are in this thing of we have to change immensely what we're making. I can't spend a week on something right now to make, because I need to make money in that week. I can't spend the week on one piece that might blow up, or I might not be able to sell for 6 months, and pay my bills. In general, a lot of us are struggling ego-wise. So an ego, you have to have your balance of an ego, right? If you don't have an ego, you're not going to put out work, But if you have too high of an ego, that's even worse, And so we're walking this tightrope of trying to make a living nowadays. And we were maybe spoiled in 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think so.
Yeah, and I definitely know people who were making good money 5 years ago, and they're having to borrow money to pay bills. And that's big name people in our industry. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not just everybody. So this whole thing, struggling, each month. Just my personal journey for the last couple of years. Every year I've just made less and less money making stuff that I think is the best work I've ever made, and personally more stuff that I wanted to make. I've struggled a lot in my career, and now it's I've had to change of how I make stuff. A couple years ago I would sell stuff and save enough money so I could spend a couple weeks on making something I wanted. That's how the motorcycles.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense.
Save up, sell a bunch of fish, make a bunch of money, so I have time to work on new stuff to do that. And now I have to plan completely differently of how I'm going to make new work that I haven't made in the past. And that's I'm struggling on really how to figure that out nowadays.
Well, something because I'm on the same page with what you're saying. In terms of I took the last year and a half off making pipes completely. Just went through a terrible divorce. I moved closer to work, kind of restarted my life over again, and I wanted to reinvent myself in a sense too, as with my glass at home. So I just like, fuck, I'm not making pipes for the next year, no customs, nothing. And now I'm trying to reinvent what I'm doing, but I'm trying to reinvent it into a industry that is either buying one-offs or that doesn't sell anymore. The one-offs don't sell anymore. It's, you know, it's weird. But because we both have that background of production, I think it benefits us to understand that if we got to crank out fucking 100 spoons today, that's what we got to do, and we can do it, no problem. You know, having that background knowledge, but trying to find something unique to make is the hard part. The important, you know, the 100 pipes. Okay, what are they going to look like? They can't just be like everybody else's wrapping rakes and colored spoons. You know what I mean? It's like, can you take your little anglerfish and make dry pipes? Like, you know, is that something that you do? Because like I've seen like you're doing like the fucking carb caps and stuff with them. You know, as an accessory.
Oh yeah, you know, I mean, I've just the past year I've been just trying to figure out how to. I want to change what I'm making. You know, I love making anglerfish, but I also need to develop more skills to accomplish things I want to accomplish in general, bigger scale. Mm-hmm. So the past year I've been, you know, making pendants, you know, like
awesome
that I made before, you know, making lion pendants and pig pendants and all sorts of stuff that are just completely out of my wheelhouse. And that whole progression of like starting out, not understanding how to make them better and better, how to change them, that whole thing has been a big eye opener for me, which is good. But it's also like this. I'm kind of starting back out at the ground floor again mm-hmm. of just a whole new body of work that I'm trying to figure out. And that's a struggle because, I mean, right now I'm just not very enthusiastic about glass. So I'm kind of taking a break by just slowing down how much production I do. And, I mean, that involves having to take like a part-time job at the same time.
Yeah.
Just to relax my mind and not have to like be forced into, oh, you got to make something you're not really enjoying doing in general to make a buck.
Yeah.
I don't want glass to be that. I'd like making things. I like coming up with new concepts. And so yeah, that's my struggle right now is how to. 2 years ago, I know what I want to make now, but I don't know if I could sell that. Right.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. That's the same boat that I'm in. and I guess I have the benefit because I have a full-time job doing glass, so it's like it's a blessing in that sense. But that's still like my glass at work is my glass at work. It's not like my stuff, my personal art in a sense. So I'm in that same boat. But I'm trying not to have that mentality of like, okay, what can I sell? But same time, I got to be able to pay for the material I'm using and whatever else without tipping into my own money, my paychecks, you know. But also, I'm at a point right now where I'm trying to supplement my income to make more money so I can continue paying my bills, you know.
So, yeah,
you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's got to be nice to have that kind of little bit of relief to where. I mean, you're still on the torch all the time.
Yeah.
So you're still like you're not doing any of that stuff, and like you don't have to. I mean, it's kind of a 9 to 5, I'm assuming. So you got to be there. You have to make stuff.
Yeah.
You're not going to be trapped in your own head in your own studio alone.
Right. Exactly. And that in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, I've been doing that, and I tell you, I haven't had a chance to like get like a good flow state going, and probably 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. And for the first time in that long, I've like been able to just like get into this world I'm working on and leave the studio for a couple hours and then come back and be like, whoa, I missed that. You know, so it's such a unique thing that as artists that we get that I don't get that at work because I deal with guests all day long too, just talking because I'm on stage demoing all day.
Oh, yeah, which has got to be nice because you just got to be in automatic mode, I imagine. So you're just, I got to work, I got to do these things, so I can't pay attention to like my struggles as an artist at home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But like it's this whole process for me has just opened up a lot of holes I realized I had just in general in my life, so I've been really backtracking and trying to figure out how to become a better artist in general. And a huge part of that has nothing to do with blowing glass,
Mm-hmm.
I never understood how to sketch or draw. I mean, I could do it like a 10-year-old or something. I could sketch out an ugly piece and kind of work on it. So like the last few months, I've really been going back and learning from the basics on how to draw.
Awesome.
Because, when you make a more complicated piece, it's, what I used to do in the past is try to make that piece, have it turn out to be not what I envisioned because I couldn't plan it out very well because my drawing skills were shitty.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to make another piece after that to increase it where I'm sure if I have better drawing skills, I can just plan out what I want to do better.
Oh, dude, 100%. And I'm glad you're bringing this topic up because it's so important as an artist. Even if you just draw geometric shapes to create whatever it is you're trying to create and out of your head, you got to get that shit on paper. Kind of create a blueprint. I think it was Blitzkrieg I was interviewing, and when he was collabing with Mickelson on a piece, and Mickelson like literally draws a blueprint to scale of whatever the fuck it is he's making on paper. Like this is how big this is going to be, and then they make the piece and they hold it over the blueprint so that everything matches up. You get into this technical stuff, you have to do it like that.
Yeah, especially like Mickelson stuff. But just look at the reason Banjo's so good is he can plan out his stuff so well in his head and on paper that he can translate that onto glass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's his whole thing. Like he's just a better planner than the majority of us.
Right. Totally. It's like being a contractor for building a building. Got to have blueprints or you're not going to know where to start.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
important.
So like that's my, that's where I'm like going back to be able to putting my focus in learning skills as an artist, just good drawing skills, for sure better color skills, because I kind of know colors, but not anything like other artists that aren't glass blowers,
Mm-hmm.
Like they have a palette of colors that they can really figure out, and just going back and trying to understand that out, because I just think that's a huge thing as an artist to be able to just plan ahead, figure out what I want to make. I can draw out 30 sketches in a night, like I could make a complicated piece in a week.
Yeah. Yeah, and then if you get your skills up to a point to where you can actually draw your work, you can then start selling prints, as another thing that you do as an artist of your work.
Oh, yeah, which is like something that I'm so jealous of people who can sell prints, right? They can make one piece of art and they can sell that piece of art multiple times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where we have to make that piece multiple times to be able to sell it.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I'm very envious, too. Yeah, it'd be nice.
Yeah, definitely. And so I'm just going back to figure out how to be a better artist, how to be a better human being. Going through just like a mass depression. I started changing my life. I started meditating every day, which has been massively huge in my life. I'm a complete skeptic of all things. I'm not a spiritual person. I'm not anything, but all these scientists are talking about meditation and how it helps you focus better, how it helps you relieve stress and anxiety and depression.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I hear I refer to it as like putting up like a foundation, like getting your day started with a strong foundation, and like an energy level wise too, because it gets your head like chemically, like biophysically or whatever the fucking word I'm looking for. It does something to your head that allows you to retain that focus.
Yeah, well, it's just training me to, like, I'm just an overthinker in general, so it's training me how to stop cycles of thought.
Yep.
Like, I don't need to think the same thing over and over and over. It does me absolutely no good. I can think about it a couple times and then learn how to stop that. If it comes back, I can learn how to stop that again versus just being in this, chasing my tail of anxiety of like, oh, I gotta work real hard so I can make money, so I can do what I want to do, so I can do this, and just having that loop all in my mind the whole time where I can kind of shut that off. I meditate for 30 minutes before I work every day, and it like puts me at this level where my anxiety level's not as high as it was before. Like, it's massively helped that. It's completely practical to every single person on Earth. Yeah. And it works. I started meditating and I just added a minute a day, and it didn't do anything for me for 2 weeks. And then after that, I noticeably saw that my anxiety went from like a 10 to like a 4, which was massive for me, because I just wake up in the morning, just anxiety level out of my head, like I'd wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and just be like in my head, and I didn't want to deal with anything because I was so anxious about everything in my life. And finally I found something that's so practical, like that worked.
Do you have like a specific practice that you take or that you do?
I do mindful meditation, but like there's a book called Meditation for the Fidgety Skeptic by, I think his name's Dan Harmon. He's an anchor on ABC, I think. So he had a panic attack on one of his news. Why he was in the news?
Yeah, I heard a podcast interview with him talking about that shit.
Right. Yeah. So he was doing like ecstasy and cocaine before that.
Yeah. Totally. Same guy. Yeah.
And then he had this anxiety, stuff. And so, I started meditating before I started listening to that audiobook. But if anyone's interested in that, it's great because it's just straight down to earth, like a dude talking about meditation and what it does. It's not a hippie saying it or a new age dude with crystals saying it. It's just a regular human being that's just talking about how meditation helps everybody.
I know how easy it is because I've been there myself back in struggling for paying rent or getting oxygen or whatever. And if that's all you're thinking about when you're working, it's like the worst potential mindset and state you could be in. Not to mention understanding what you're saying too about waking up with anxiety right away. Like, I've dealt with that myself, and I dealt with it for years. I shared the episode with you where I got to that point of my just dark space I was in. I was just like, I can't fucking do this anymore. What the fuck is going, kind of shit. I'm almost ready to give up. So it's, and you get to that point to where you start giving clues to people around you, but they're not really like completely hitting the head on the nail kind of thing, what you're actually experiencing. So not everybody picks up on it. So the fact that you came out just like flat out was just like, hey, here's what the fuck is going on right now. I applaud you for it because the conversations that you started on those threads for people that were put and commenting, and including myself, is so important. Because not only are you getting immediate feedback and it's not bullshit, it's it's the truth, and you also know that you have this amazing community. That's a lot of us are going through the same shit.
Yeah, it was pretty mind blowing of realizing that I had friends in general and people that just even strangers like supporting me and trying to help me out. That and then the other half of it, which I wasn't expecting, is me just expressing myself and how I'm not doing well. Just was helping other people because lots of people are in the same boat as me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that would help other people. I was just doing it at first just to I just needed some people to say that you're a worthwhile human being.
Yeah.
And then after that, just like all the people like, man, I'm going through the same thing. Thanks for speaking up. Just that whole aspect, I never expected that would help. That me expressing myself would help other people, And that just blows my mind.
Yeah, and man, and that's one reason of many why I wanted to start this podcast was to give people a chance to come on here and talk about these kind of things. And we could talk about shop talk all day long, which I love doing. And I love glass, and it gives me goosebumps having these conversations. But the real meat and potatoes of what I want to talk about is the health issues that we deal with, the financial issues that we deal with, and the mental issues that we deal with. And we all deal with all three of them.
Yeah, yeah, we're all going to have to deal with some sort of shitty thing in your life.
Yeah.
And the whole thing with, kind of what I would like to just express in general is don't really pay attention to your mental health. Don't wait till you get in my position where you're just at rock bottom in your life, emotionally, financially. Like, you can start working on your mental health when you're in a good state,
Mm-hmm.
Like, learn the techniques on how to deal with your life better, because it doesn't matter how well your life's going right now. You could still learn how to deal with things better than you are now. So when shit does happen, because at some point you're going to have your parents are going to die, or pets are going to die, or you're going to be in financial ruin, or go through a horrible divorce. I've been through pretty much all those things, and you're going to have to use techniques to help you get out of that.
Yeah.
And we all need to hear that.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and I agree with what you're saying about getting to the point to where you don't allow yourself really to hit rock bottom. But I know for some people that's what it fucking takes, is to hit rock bottom. Like myself, like it took me really to get to that farthest point away from the light, in a sense that I was hit rock bottom, and then it was like a personal slap in the face, and I didn't really have the conversation with people like for probably a good year and a half, 2 years after I was going through that, of what I was going through, except for my family. And even some of them, I didn't talk about it. And a lot of my family didn't even know that I went through what I went through until they heard my podcast episode, which was interesting, kind of. And I mean, for me, doing that was a transparency thing that I had to reach out to let other people know, again, like you're doing, that we're not in this alone. We're all in this together. And it's so important. But then again, at the same time, it is important, though, to exercise your brain, your mental well-being, in a sense, on a daily basis, and pay attention to things and experiment with yourself and find what works and what doesn't work. And some things may, like smoking pot isn't for everybody because it leads to more anxiety and higher stress levels and shit, blah, blah, blah. So it's...
Or just escaping, in general.
Exactly.
Escape life through television or Instagram.
Yep.
Which is just unhealthy. We end up like hiding from things. I mean, this past couple years, I've just been on this, like declining, more and more depressed, hiding from life. Like just going closer and closer to rock bottom. And I lost a relationship because I wasn't taking care of myself, like financially or emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one's who's gonna stick around you if you hate yourself.
Yeah.
And then you end up at rock bottom, and you have limited choices. You have a bunch of shitty choices when you're at rock bottom, and you only have you have a lot of choices, but like you can choose to just hide from your life, or you can choose to make your life better. But I've been working crazy hard at making my life better since then, and that involves a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I should have just made better choices before then, when I understood where I was going, because I knew I was not happy with my life. But it took a place I didn't want to be to realize exactly what that fucking meant.
Yeah.
And if I would have just learned some better techniques of like just understanding where I am emotionally, that would have changed my life a lot. I mean, I just wish I would have just dealt with my mental health so much sooner in my life. Like that's something we're just never taught to deal with.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's like not one of the things we talk about in school. all of our ABCs instead of the W or the MW, I guess, in a sense. To help with mental wellness.
I took geometry. That doesn't really help with my life when I'm going through struggles.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, we should all really deal with our mental health. That's such a huge thing. I mean, same with our physical health. That's also not eating shitty and not losing yourself in alcohol and weed and other things. That's it's hard to moderate your life in general, especially most of us as artists, because we're just excessive people.
Mm-hmm.
Which I have definitely done.
Me too.
But in the end, I like getting high, but I don't need to be high all day.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no benefit in that. I'm just hiding from my life. I mean, that's what I did. I just hid from my life by getting super stoned all day.
Yeah, same here, bro. Same here. I totally understand that. And for some people, they can function that way, and it's a medicine for them in a sense. I know my brain doesn't work that way, so I can't do that like I used to, because it would just make me want to just regress.
Yeah, I can function that way, but not function at the level of what I want to. Just moderation. We all need moderation in all parts of our life.
Yeah, agreed. Do you do anything else besides meditation for yourself? I mean, I know you're talking about the eating and, because pre-recording here, you're talking about this gnarly ass lasagna you're making right now.
Oh, yeah. I've always ate pretty clean. I'm a huge hunter, so I eat wild game. But just lately, I've just streamlined that to just eat super healthy. And I'm not super healthy. I'll still eat some crappy food here and there. Mm-hmm. That's not a big deal. But just on general, I try to pay attention to what I'm eating, and I cut out all sugar, which actually is helped my energy levels so incredibly much. I have a lot more energy than I ever had. And then I started working out every day. At first I had a buddy who would take me to the gym twice on his membership, just to, he knew I was going through a bad time, and knew it'd be a good thing.
But yeah, so Wyoming and yoga. Yeah, I'm sure it's not the it's not the yoga capital of the world or anything.
Yeah, it's not like there's a yoga class every corner like there is in most cities, Yeah. And so I just, just started working out every day, ate better, and then trying to just fill up my life with things that are beneficial for me. It's super easy to spend 4 hours a day watching Netflix. Now I just try to like the drawing things. I'll watch a couple hours on how to draw, or I just try to fill my life up with stuff that can help me out.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's good.
Yeah. I mean, all we all have is to fill time in our day, right? And I'm just trying to make sure that that's going to be the most beneficial for me, so I can get out of the shithole I'm in. Mm-hmm. I want to work again. I'm working, but I want to be to where I really enjoy my work, and I want to go work for 10 hours a day.
Yep.
And if I'm not taking care of myself mentally, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and even the physical side of doing that, like you're saying, even if your mental well-being is fucking perfect, it's a wear and tear on your body physically.
Oh yeah, and that's the other thing is if I do a ton of prep nowadays, my lower back kills me.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to work out so I can counteract that stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've been doing this 23 years, so that's a huge wear and tear on your body, and I want to continue to do it for another 30 years or whatever till I die, pretty much.
Yeah.
And if I don't take care of myself and build my muscles, that's just going to decline to where I'll only be able to work a couple hours a day.
Yeah, man, having a good core and good cardiovascular is so important.
Oh, but like back stuff that we don't really pay attention to are huge. Not just your core, but I mean it's part of your core. But
right. I know what you're saying for sure.
Like just paying attention to that, and just upper body strength. All that stuff. That's you might think you're building that up by working, but you're only sustaining that by working.
Yeah, and then you also, in a sense, are tearing it down just because you're constantly overworking it.
Yeah, and then you need to build other muscles to support the muscles you're using, so you can continue to do that. Or holding a 2-pound piece in your arm for a day, that kills you.
That sucks. It's worth it in the end, but fuck, man, the process can suck.
Oh yeah. So the more you can work on your kind of spare time to fill in the gaps, so you can do that without it dying. Because if you're worrying about how much your arm's hurting, you're not paying attention to what you're doing, and all it takes is 30 seconds or 10 seconds of not paying attention to blow up a piece that you've been working on for a week.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing with your mental health. All it takes is you not to pay attention to your work to have that thing explode right in front of you in that 10 or 15 seconds that you should have paid attention.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the more complicated work you do, the more you have to stay on this crazy amount of focus. It's kind of why I wish I just did straight production, because it could just be so mindless, and if you blow it up, your risk is so tiny it doesn't matter.
Yeah, a week on something and then blowing it up, man, fuck. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I mean it happens, of course, but when it's kind of your fault,
right? Exactly. Yeah.
It's why isn't it's doing all night marathons blowing glass? That's always when I fuck up a piece. It's when I'm tired and hungry, that's when shit always gets bad.
Yeah, it's so important to be mindful about that and understand when it's time just to stop. Because you can keep going, like you're saying. And next thing you know, you stick your hand in your flame, like I've done before, and you're out for 3 months because you should have been in bed.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's just not. It's. I've done it. Most of us have done it. It's just. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and then it ends up being your fault.
And then it's the worst. For sure.
Oh yeah, it is the worst. I remember making a piece, and I think I dropped it on the way to the kiln, right as I was going to finish it.
Oh yeah, fuck.
And it was just are you kidding me? Because most days now, if something cracks or something, I can usually fix it. Rarely do I have to scratch a piece, especially a complicated piece. I understand how to build it to where if a component does break, I can either replace it or I can fix it right as whatever happens. But that's only if I'm focused.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times I have those issues where I just got to put it down and then come back to it the next day, just to kind of regather your head, on how to just approach whatever the issue is, in a sense.
Oh, yeah. If I'm having just a day where I'm not paying attention to stuff, I have to do simple stuff. I'm not going to do anything where I think I'm going to lose something, where there's an immense amount of risk, know?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Hell yeah, dude. Well, I think this is a good spot for us to take a quick break and thank some sponsors. And then we'll come back and it'll be time for us to crash the kiln.
Cool.
I can dig it.
This segment of the Wise Guy Radio Show is brought to you by The Flow Magazine. Right now, The Flow Magazine is extending their deadline for submissions for their marble and paperweight issue, summer 2019. They have extended their deadline until March 30th, 2019. And if you'd like to have any kind of marbles or paperweights submitted, you have to have this in by March 30th. Make sure you please include an email with 3 to 5 high-resolution digital images of all your glass art that you have at least 300 DPI images, and along with a completed submission form to theflow.maureen@gmail.com. Check the show notes for the link for that. And again, that is for anybody interested in submitting any glass, marbles, or paperweights into the summer 2019 issue. If you also would like to subscribe to The Flow Magazine, you can go to theflowmagazine.com and use promo code WISEGUY, that's WYZGUY, and you'll receive 10% off your annual subscription. That's theflowmagazine.com. All right, man, we're back. Quick break there. So, Crash in the Kiln round consists of 7 questions, I think. Which I say every time. I don't really know. I need to count them. But you can give me a 30 to 60-second answer, or you can also expound upon them even further if you'd like to, as everybody tends to do. And the first question I always like to ask is if there's any living glass artists that you have not yet worked with in terms of collaboration sense or want to work with, that you haven't had a chance to do work with them. Who is it and why?
Brendan Martin, because he is just awesome. I mean, he is, I think, the best artist in our industry, because he can make the most simplest thing that's super awesome, and he can make the most complex thing and make it crazy awesome. And it's just his color combos, everything. He's just the man.
Yeah, I love his work. Super inspiring for my stuff.
Yeah.
And his multimedia stuff too, and doing toys. I mean, I can talk about him all day. I need to get him on the show.
Yeah, just showing his background of like how most of us need. He's got a huge art background, like most of us don't. I just started making pipes, and I like art, but I don't I never learned about art concepts, which I'm going back to that nowadays. So
nice.
Yeah.
Hell yeah! What are your top 5 favorite colors in glass?
Top 5 favorite colors. Blackjack.
Okay.
There's too many greens to just narrow down one.
We'll just say green. Greens.
Green. Purple rain. Cadmium yellows. I'm not really picky.
Got one more.
One more. Oh. Damn. I just like colors that don't blow up on me, so.
Non-explosive colors.
They're my favorite. I can tell you my least 5 favorite colors a lot easier than my 5 favorite colors.
I know, dude. Our palette has. I mean, you know how it was when we started. We had like one green and it fucking sucked. Now it's like you're saying, the greens nowadays.
Yeah, there was one green, 50 shades of blue, and a couple reds, and the rest were just crap.
Mm-hmm. And then we were introduced to amber purple.
Oh yeah. Maybe North Star yellow. I like that color.
Yeah, it's an awesome color.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's 5?
Yep, that's 5.
Sweet.
Let's see, what's your worst injury in the studio?
My worst... Well, I have a scariest and a worst one. So my worst one was... I was probably in a year into making glass. Probably not even that. It was my first year. And I was making a fish pipe, remarkably. And someone was talking to me behind me, so I turned my hand and, like, stuck my hand in the flame, so it went, the tip of my thumb all across my fingers. That was pretty painful. But I think my scariest one was I used to use a lot of 3mm to rake with, and I went to scratch my face, and you know how if you break a rod, you'll have that really thin, paper thin, like razor edge.
Oh yeah.
Of a razor blade on there. Well, I went to scratch my face, and I just barely touched that across my face, and it just opened up my cheek.
Oh man.
I mean, it was like, maybe a half an inch, but it was just like taking a razor blade right to my face.
Oh, fuck.
A little scar there. I mean, you can barely see it. But that screwed me up for so long, because I just wouldn't ever scratch my face with any rod in my hand ever after that.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't hurt that bad, but
It
I
never
just
does.
I just knew exactly what I did. Like, oh, that could have been way worse, man.
Oh man, the other day I was cleaning off. I use a Chinese white for the Olaf that I make, and and they come in like the 5-foot lengths. And this batch that we had, it was literally like covered in mud. It's fucking disgusting. I don't know how they're storing this shit. So I'm like wiping my rod off, and I cut them in half first. So I'm dealing with 2.5 feet of glass, and I'm just like, it's flexible, and I'm wiping it, and all of a sudden it snaps in my hand, and I'm like, okay, I'm good. But then I looked at the end of the rod, and it had one of those little jagged edges on it, and I could see my skin on it, and I'm like looking around my hands, like waiting to see the blood appear, because you know how those clean cuts are, man. Like you don't bleed right away, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh fuck, and it was on my left pointer finger, or just on the inside of my knuckle, like by my thumb, and it went just over my knuckle. You know, like I'm glad it wasn't any worse than what it was, but it was scary. It could have been bad.
Yeah. I've cuts have been the worst thing. I mean, burns, like you learn pretty fast not to burn yourself, but cuts are so easy to have happen.
Yeah, especially like trying to pull like fresh rods out of a case of glass. You scratch your fingertips up, like all kind of dumb shit we do.
Oh yeah.
Fuck.
It's
yeah. So enough of that talk. So when you're in the shop, do you watch TV, listen to the radio, or do you do both?
I do both. I mean, now my internet won't really reach out to my shop, so I just mainly listen to podcasts.
Okay. Like
yours.
Awesome. Hell yeah. Do you have any other favorites that you listen to?
10% Happier. It's a meditation. It's Dan Harms or whatever. So it's a lot of meditation stuff. I listen to all sorts of crazy stuff. Been listening to a lot of marketing podcasts lately, but I can't think of any other names.
Cool. One Online Marketing Made Easy is a show I listen to, and she Amy Porterfield, her name is. She does a lot of really good, like she'll do 90-day pre-launch type stuff, and it's like she has like a checklist, like this is what you do month 1 and this is what you do month 2, and it's really, really helpful shit.
Yeah, I never had to deal with marketing really. I just go store to store or whatever. Nowadays, I think marketing is a huge deal.
Oh, it's huge, especially now with social media and understanding it, and you know, it's not about sex appeal anymore, even though it helps, but it's not about it anymore. It's about like, what are you offering? Again, dude, your posts on your social media stuff, like what you're being vulnerable, that type of stuff is what helps sell your work. I'm not saying you're doing that to sell your work, but it helps draw attention to you. It helps to have conversations with your people. It helps to make connections, which is what this world is all about. And then people become emotionally connected to you, and they become emotionally connected to your glass, and next thing you know, you're selling out every day.
Well, yeah. I can't wait for that day.
Yeah, takes time. I'm still waiting for it myself. 20 years later.
Yeah.
Oh shit. So let's see. If you could describe the sound of glass cracking, whether like the actual sound that it makes or like a gut emotional impact that it creates in one word, what would that be?
Shit.
Perfect.
Yeah. That's what goes through my mind.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll try to think, make sure I got them all. There's one I know I'm missing, and I just can't fucking remember. I need to get my list out next time.
The tool one?
Yeah, so the top 5 favorite tools is the last one, yeah.
Top 5 favorite tools.
Besides, and that does not include your torch, your glasses, or your kiln. So anything else but those 3.
Mini jacks.
Okay. Did you make those yourself?
Yeah.
Cool.
Salt taught me how.
Yeah, man, he's taught a lot of people that shit. It's awesome.
Yeah, dude. I recommend. Well, he doesn't teach classes anymore, but if you could get a class from him, he's awesome.
Yeah.
Mini jacks. God. Good tweezers.
Mm-hmm. Without having flared ends on the tips of them.
Yeah. I have a special knife. It's not a butter knife, but it's it's what I use to sculpt a lot with.
Cool.
Oh, damn. I thought I had this in my head better. Big jacks, also.
Okay.
That's what? 4?
Yep.
More. Nice reamer.
Okay. Do you use brass or graphite?
Both. But I started to use my brass one a little more. I don't know why, though. You can tell how much I've learned about.
That's hilarious. I've never actually really, on a regular basis, used any kind of brass tools like that for reaming and stuff. But I definitely know it's beneficial because things stay true instead of losing the size of it. You know, like a joint tool, for instance. You know, it's ideal having a brass joint tool.
Yeah. I mean, I always still use a joint to make sure I fit it correctly in the end.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't trust tools.
Yeah, same here. Do you use beeswax on that reamer? The brass one?
I used to not, but now I do.
Yeah, okay. Hell yeah. Well, before I let you go, dude, and again, I can't thank you enough for coming on here and being vulnerable here and sharing your story. And it's fun to hear your perspective because, again, bro, I've been following your work for a long time, and I remember seeing those anglerfish for the first time and just fell in love with just the concept and style of what you're doing. And for me, one of the things that kind of sparked my interest in your work and inspired my stuff was seeing how you did the bottom jaw being just a complete separate piece of glass that wasn't functional at all. It was just part of the sculpture. And it got me thinking about, like not everything has to be completely hollow. It's awesome to make a female torso with hollow arms and legs, but you can also make those arms and legs solid, and getting to take a class with Coyle and Joe Peters and Steve Sizelove and stuff, and, seeing how they worked as well, seeing that same concept, kind of, starting with you and the other artists in your area that were doing that kind of stuff, and then seeing it in person and from a class, it all just kind of culminated together to where it just translated into my work. So it's I'd like to see your innovation, and dude, keep doing those fucking bikes. Those bikes are badass.
Oh, I will. I got to get the chops off. That's
the
biggest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man. So that being said, before I keep rambling here, before I let you go, if you want to give us some parting piece of advice out there, and then where we can find you out there in the world of cyberspace.
Do work in all parts of your life in general. Like whether it's blowing glass, stay on the torch, make as much production as you can, do stuff for your mental health as much as you can. And yeah, you could just find me on Instagram, Wyoming MoFo.
Hell yeah. And before I forget to ask you, where the fuck did that come from? Was it like, I'm from Wyoming MoFo, or some shit, you know what I mean? Like, where'd that come from?
At first it was, I'm huge into dogs. I have hunting dogs and stuff. So I was going to be Dog Boy, but I thought there was another Dog Boy at the time. And I knew I could be Wyoming because, there's not many pipers in Wyoming in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just going to be Wyoming, but I couldn't be Wyoming Glass because if you were to look up that on the internet, it would go to a lot of auto glass stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So I just for the internet wise, I just put the MoFo on the end for, shits and giggles. And it stuck.
Yeah, that's perfect.
But it's super easy to find me with that, I can always get an email. Pretty much anything I go for on the internet, no one's taken that.
That's so true. It's like my last name's Borgholzer, and it's like I've got my own Borgholzer@gmail.com because nobody else has that. So, it's beneficial.
Yeah, and in the end, it's good marketing for me. It's people don't meet people from Wyoming. My old shopmates at the Shack Mansion, they have a joke where there's only 2 people really that live in Wyoming, and because I'm the only one, they've only met 2 people in Wyoming.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Hell yeah. Well, hang on, man. We'll say goodbye off the air here. I'll do my little outro here for a second.
All right, cool.
So hope you all enjoyed this conversation. It's so important, again, just to have these conversations in your circles. And if you don't have anybody in a circle to reach out to, then you reach out through social media. And if people don't respond to it necessarily right away, keep doing it, because eventually someone's going to respond. And it might even be me, as long as I see it, obviously. But, it's so important just to express your emotions, but also to be mindful and do your own little self-discovery as well, and what you're going through, whatever it is, happy or sad emotions you're dealing with. It's good to understand where they're coming from and how to deal with it. And like we kind of covered about smoking too much and kind of masking these things, that's something that you're doing. Definitely check yourself, because before you wreck yourself, that one good line of ours that we always hear in songs. So anyways, I'm going to ramble here. Y'all take care. Hope you enjoyed our conversation. And until next time, we'll see you on the Wise Guy Radio Show. Love you so much. Take care. Peace.